Hello, friends, how are you? Hope you're well. As you can see from the title of today's book, I'm taking myself back to childhood. I don't know about you guys, but I've always read, and I've always been aware of books in my life. And I thought it'd be quite nice to sort of take a trip down memory lane and sort of talk about how I read in my childhood. And maybe to try and remember some of the books or series that I have read and why I liked them, if I can remember from the recesses of my mind. But yeah, so as I say, books have always been in my life, and I can remember my parents reading to me when I was like knee high to a grasshopper, and I can remember being snuggled up in my bed with either mum or dad beside me, snuggling into them as they read to me, and it was wonderful. Both of them were brilliant readers, and they both used to do voices for the different characters, and it really made the books come alive for me. And I can remember sort of they would maybe read a chapter, when I got to that stage, it would be a chapter a night. But until before that, if like little, the little short, young reader books and like baby books. I don't remember them obviously reading when I was a baby, but I know they did because they've told me. And I can remember them kind of reading, like if the books were like yay thin, really tiny totty books, they would read the whole book to me. And it would be like, I would just be enthralled by these various characters and the way that the story came alive for me. They used to read me fairy tales, and it was just magical. I'd be transported to somewhere else before I went to bed, and I loved it. As I got older, we'd have a box of books, or maybe a shelf of books of mine in the living room, and I can remember even not being able to read. I would get a book out and I would just sit and flick through the pages and look at the pictures. And mum and dad say I used to do that a lot. If I wasn't doing something else, whatever it was I was doing in the child, I would have a book in front of me and I'd just be flicking through just to look at the pictures. And they would maybe, they used to ask me about the pictures, what did I see? And I don't know that I made up my own stories, but I could tell them what was in the picture and maybe what I thought was happening. And as I got older, we obviously went on to chapter books. And I can vividly remember, like, not only being read to at night, that they would read a chapter and I would try and wheedle another one out of them. I'd be like, oh, come on, just keep going. I want to know what happened. No, you got to wait till tomorrow night. Come on, keep going. I'm not sleepy. I'm not sleepy. Eventually, at times they did give in. But I loved that because there was always like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen? And I mean, Dad, I remember, read the Sula series to me by Lavinia Derwent, and they are, I have got such fond memories of that. They read Mrs. Pepperpot to me by Alf Proysen. Brer Rabbit by Enid Blyton. Loved Brer Rabbit. Oh, Brer Rabbit was fantastic. And so those were kind of this, I had those. And I'm sure we had the Jack and Jill series, or Tipsy and Tom, or whatever it was, or Topsy and Tim, I think it was. I can remember those. And I also remember Mum and I, if we were baking, we would obviously would make whatever we're making, put it in the oven, would clean up, and then in the time that was left for whatever was in the oven to be ready, we would curl up on the sofa and Mum would read to me. And if it was the book that I was reading at night, I'd go upstairs and I would bring it down and would read maybe another chapter of it. And I can fondly remember just being snuggled up with either my parents and them reading to me. And as it got to the stage of me being able to read, they would read my reading book with me from school. And they were really great. It was like, if I was stumbling over words, they would help me out. I think both of them being teachers was an added bonus for me. But if they were reading a chapter book to me at night, they would say to me, right, okay, how about you read the next couple of sentences? And again, if there was words that I was stumbling over, they would help me out. And, they would start going, okay, right, let's read that. You read the next paragraph to me. And it eventually got to the stage where, okay, you can read this you can read these on your own. But it was always like, if you don't understand or you're stuck with a word, you can, come downstairs, we'll go over it with you and we'll explain it all. And that was great. And I mean, I can remember reading Mallory Towers, St. Clair's, Secret 7, Famous 5. I think I read some Nancy Drew. I think I probably read the Hardy Boys as well. The Chalet School. There's something in my head that says that as I got into my kind of teenage years, I think I read some Sweet Valley High, but not very much, because by that point I was kind of onto more adult books. I remember kind of primary 7, I was reading the James Herriot series. So I'd already kind of moved from childhood books onto adult books at that point. And I can remember going into high school and reading the stuff that was the prescribed literature for high school, and it was horrendous. How I'm still reading, I have no idea. I think it's because Mum and Dad instilled such a love of books into me that the horrible rubbish that I got, people will not think what I read at high school was rubbish. Some folk will absolutely love it. I hated it with a passion. And, I now think to myself, why the heck do I still read? And it's because I had that love of books instilled in me from so young an age that hasn't kind of affected me. But I can remember being a librarian at high school. And I used to love the kind of lunch hours that I was on duty, because I would get to look at the shelves, and our librarian was great. She was like, you can pick whatever you want. You don't have to, shall we stick to first year books, second year books, whatever. You can choose what you want. And that was great because it broadened out my scope. I mean, I think I read Jane Eyre when I was in second year. Most folk, my year group were going, oh my God, I wouldn't touch that with a barge pole. What's that about? Oh, I'm not touching that. It's like, why aren't you reading this stuff? And I'm like, I'm past that. I don't need that. So that, that was great to be able to do that. And Mum and Dad always made sure that at Christmas time, at birthdays, I was either given a book by them or a book token. I can remember one Christmas opening up my present, and it was a book token, and it had number 1 on it, and then there was this sheet of paper that said, for every month of the year you're getting a book token. And that was my Christmas present. And it meant that I could go every month into the bookshop and buy a book. And it was the most exciting thing that I ever received. I was like, yay! I was so happy and so excited. The other thing that I remember about childhood reading was, in school we used to get a book magazine. And I don't know, it might have been, I think it could have been Scholastic, I'm not sure. But we could order as many books as we wanted from that magazine, and they'd be delivered to the school, and we could take them home and read them. And this happened throughout my primary school life, and I loved it. I mean, I know that I think most months I got a book, if not, sometimes I got more. I always tried to make sure that I definitely, I did get one. Maybe there were ones that I didn't get, but you know, and I would get a variety. I would get fiction and non-fiction, and I just loved them. I loved the excitement when you knew that today was the day that the books were being delivered. That was great. So that was the other way I got books when I was younger. Also, the library. We lived in the Highlands, and the mobile library used to come around. Oh, what a job that would have been. But yeah, I used to love going to the mobile library. And the driver got to know you. And they're like, oh yeah, hi, how are you? What's been happening? Oh, how did you enjoy last month's books? Or the last couple of weeks' books? Right, okay, you enjoy that, well, why don't you try that? And they would refer you to books, and it was brilliant. And then we would go into the bigger town where we lived near, and we joined the library there. And again, it was like, oh, hi, how are you? What are you reading? Oh, all right, maybe you could try that one or whatever. And I could remember coming out of the library with like 5 books. And I just loved that. When we came down to where we live now, we're not in the Highlands anymore. And we have a library in our town, and I used to use that a lot in my childhood. And I did enjoy it, but eventually it got to the point of, well, the books that you're stocking are not the ones that I kind of want to read anymore. So I then had to sort of move on. But the library was always a great joy, because I could go and sit down there and spend an hour quite happily choosing what books I wanted to take out. And that was just so much fun for me. I still get, I think because my parents gave me so much enjoyment of books, that it has stayed throughout my life. And even now, if I'm baking, then I will tidy up and then I'll just sit and read. It's so ingrained in me, but I am really happy with that. That something from childhood has just kept me going and going in books and in the way I read. That I am just so grateful that my parents did that for me and have encouraged me so much to just keep reading and wanting to read. So that's kind of my childhood memories of reading, and sort of some of the series that I read. It'd be really nice to have a discussion down below. How did you start reading when you were a child? What kind of books did you read? Do you still read any of the books that you had as a child? I still have my Chalet School series. I still have the Sula series. I have some, I have a couple of Mrs. Pepperpots. Oh, I've also got my Laura Ingalls Wilder series. So I still have all those. And I do tend to dip into my Chalet School more, than any of the others, but I still have them, and I can just look at them in my book and on my bookshelves, and I smile because it takes me back, and I think that is just so nice. But yeah, let's have a chat down in the comments about your childhood memories of reading. And if your parents, how have you tried to instill the love of books and reading to your children? What have you read to them? It would be really nice to know. I hope you've enjoyed this series, this chat. I've enjoyed doing it. I have to say it's been fun, sort of going down memory lane a bit. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. Until my next one, friends, stay safe and happy reading. Bye.